realness.
What we're gonna do right here is go back.
Hello, hello. We are back again. And also just knowing that it's so important to ensure that you have substance with what you're doing and saying at all times. I would just tell the audience to stay tuned. Just knowing the things that you have in your mind, just the glimpse you've given me, there's going to be a wealth of knowledge. The name is Business.
I'm very happy about my investment, but this now business is going to be my key to generational wealth. I really believe that. And
my ask is for everyone to remain spectacular.
There's back on Christianity, people have different foundations now. The respect for elderly people, older people is just different.
It seems like, you have a desire for everybody to step it up. Now, I know you. So how much do you actually like being exceptional? Knowing that the only way you're exceptional is if everybody else is some bums. Because I know you love it.
I'd remind you all that the best part of this Authentic Realness podcast is each and every one of you. Let us all be spectacular.
Realness.
All right, Fatty, you there?
yes, I'm here.
Theo, you there?
I'm here.
Introducing Authentic Realness.
Hello, hello. Aaron R. Plush here, back for another episode of this amazing, wonderful Authentic Realness podcast, which is one that I am certain that we all own at this point, that we all have come to learn in a very short time what this particular product is all about. It's a product of excellence. It's a product where we all can take a part in. It's a product we all can be proud of. And it's a product where you know that each and every episode, you will be consuming content that is filling, one that is authentic, one that is real, and one that you're going to really go on a roller coaster ride. So how exciting is it to say that we all are a part and an amazing contributor to such a significant journey. So this episode tonight, we're going to jump right in. I have Babby. Babby, say hello.
Hi, everyone.
Theo, say hello as well, brother.
Greetings.
And we're jumping into, this is our Just Reflecting episode. And on this particular episode, we want to reflect on everything. We want to reflect on 2022. And to be very clear to the listeners, we are recording at the end of December, but we recognize that this particular episode will be our first episode of 2023. So we are going to be talking from a vantage point of, yes, reflecting back to all of 2022, but certainly as if we're already in 2023 together. So just journey with us, use those amazing imaginations, and let's have a great session. So for me, when I think about 2022 and it being in the books, like every year, it's one of those ones where so much has happened. And you think about the fact that we have 365 days in a year. And if you think back to any year of your life, how much of it do you really remember? And the harsh reality is we remember the essence of the year. We remember those highlights, those highs, those lows, those in-betweens, those moments of how you felt, those moments of amazing concerts and music and individuals that you were around, great moments at work, bad moments at work, horrible moments of life, great moments of life. But holistically, it's just a series of memories and things that have occurred. For me, being the God-fearing man that you all know that I am, I have no choice but to reflect on the year as being one that God intended for it to be. And I accept all of it for what it was. And I've allowed everything that's happened in 2022 to shape me and prepare me for 2023 and beyond. Such an exciting year for me. Fabi, what about for you?
This year was definitely, as I look back and I recap 2022, I would say that this year was a lot of healing, yet growth opportunities. It really allowed me to work on myself. And as I reflect back now, like, I'm just so proud of how far that I have personally come. And like you were mentioning as well, Aaron, like really learning to trust God. There was a lot of times this year that I just was not seeing the full picture, not understanding why certain things were happening the way they were. But now towards the end of the year, I really can look back and trust in God that everything happened definitely for a reason. And I'm really actually excited for 2023. I feel that it's going to be a really good year and a year where I'm honestly able to really, really level up. And I think all of the things that happened in 2022 allowed me to have this moment now going into 2023. So it was really,
what about for those around you?
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
What about those around you? What kind of year would you say it would be for just the world and those around you?
I would say it was still yet a challenging year. I think even though we're coming off of almost 2 going on 3 years of the pandemic, I feel like folks are still very much in limbo with a lot of things, with family, with work. But I do think that there is still hope, that things still do get better year over year. And I do feel that people are more appreciative of time more than anything.
Okay. Wonderful. And it's certainly my prayer that that is the case. And certainly one of the big things that we've learned this year in this particular podcast form is me learning how to truly allow you all to finish your thoughts and to keep this conversation going. So what was it that you were saying when I jumped in with my question?
Now I've lost my train of thought, but if it comes back to me, I definitely will let you know.
It has to come back. It has to come back. Think about it and think hard about it so that we can ensure that you get that thought back out there. Theo, what about for you, sir? So we'll start with that first part of the question, which is, as you reflect back on 2022 for you personally, what have you gained and where are you? And then secondly, for the world and those around you, what's your perspective there?
For me, it has been a year of change and discovery. A lot of times we like to look at things that we've lost with everyone loses people or lose things or things change within life all the time. But for me, this has been the year to embrace change and gain an understanding about it, which I do find the blessing in that we've been able to reconnect through the blog space, and then we moved over to the podcast space. Because one thing that I can say that's an innate quality about you, my brother, no, not gassing you up, just speaking truth, is that you can help someone discover their niche or discover their purpose by just having a conversation with them. And I'm grateful for that because it brings a level of understanding to oneself, not just in a business sense or in a creative sense, but also in a personal sense where you understand this is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is how I'm going to attack it. This is how I'm going to embrace the changes that life have brought on. And when it comes to the friends around me, I can actually say the people around me, it has brought change as well. My wife moved from Seattle to South Carolina. That was a big change, but we're making it happen. My friends, they are starting to put their creative stamp on certain things that they've been passionate about for years. And I equate it back to my conversations with you because it's one thing where you just keep talking about the ideas you have, but you don't make that first step, which is the hardest thing to do, is to take that first step. So for me, myself and the ones around me, it has been, this is the year where we're going to take that first step. A lot of times we wait to the end of the year to have all these New Year's resolutions, but you can't change stuff at the drop of a clock striking the next day. You have to build some momentum. So you shouldn't be thinking about this stuff on the 31st. You should be thinking about this stuff months in advance. So you can, when the 31st, when the first hit, you should be already in production at that point. Pre-production and planning already knocked out. It's time to go get it. So yeah, change and embracing the change and taking that first step for me and my tribe, for sure.
And I tell you, Theo, one of the things that comes to mind as you're saying that for me, it's even less about January 1. Mm-hmm. And if you truly want to do something, make it June 1 that you do it.
Oh, big facts.
Make it June 5th that you do it. Make it July 1st. It doesn't stop putting ourselves in these predicaments and situations. Oh, when the new year starts, I'm going to have a refresh. If you want to have a refresh on September 3rd, there's nothing stopping you from doing that other than you.
Right.
And we really do have to stop lying to ourselves, because that's really what typically happens with most folks and these New Year's resolutions that they have. That, I'm going to eat healthy, I'm working out, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And it may last 5 days. And then after that, max. You're back to business. Oh, you're being good to give people 2 weeks. I don't know any of those folks. But I tell you in very certain terms, and we're laughing about it, which is really tragic and sad. If you really want to do something, be honest with yourself that you really want to do it. But don't get caught up in that whole concept of lying to yourself, because there's nothing worse.
Right.
Like, you can lie to me. You lie to a bunch of other folks. But when you're lying to yourself, you're in a horrible place. And the harsh reality is, if you know you're not going to go on that workout plan, if you know you're not going to eat healthy, if you know you're not going to start that business, if you know you're not going to do whatever it is you say you're going to do, don't kid yourself. Go ahead and be honest with yourself. I'm not ready to do this right now. But that doesn't mean that you can't do it some other time. And that's where that whole planning that you talked about, that's where that whole connecting with a consultant like me, who has both sides of the house, because as we're having this conversation, it will be in 2023, A&R Plush on the creative and social side will be launched in addition to the A&R Plush consultant and independent contract that was launched in 2022. So regardless of where you are, if you truly are in need of getting from one place to the next, A&R Plush, the consultant, is that guy that can help you get from that position A to position Z with a full-fledged plan to get there, and an accountability partner that's going to make it happen, that makes it non-negotiable. But the key thing is that this is what you really want to do. Now, don't waste your time, and certainly don't waste mine. And most importantly, don't waste God's.
There you go. That's it.
The other thing I'd say, I definitely got to laugh at you in your fanciness of tonight, of your niche. And I've always found it interesting as to how people pronounce that word, depending on where they are from around the globe and what circles they travel in, etc. That word will always be niche for me. And I don't care what circles I'm in, it's a niche. But if you all want to go with niche, you all niche on, but it's a niche for me. But continue.
I agree with Theo. I say niche.
But I say niche.
Of course, against the edges.
It's not even that. If you were to go and you look the word up and you look at pronunciations, you're going to hear that the most dominant pronunciation of that word is niche. But continue.
I got it. I got you, brother.
I'm big on words.
Something new every day.
Big on words. Big on words. Big on pronunciation as well. The whole in regards. People, there's no S on that. It's in regard. But okay, I digress. Right? And there's so many others of that nature that I could just go on and on and on and on, because words have always been significant for me, and pronunciation of words have always been significant for me, and the understanding of those words as well, which makes total sense to the work that I do, because everything that I do as a consultant is very specific. There is no room for ambiguity in the work that I do. There's no room for gray stuff in the work that I do. But continue. And it sounds like you have a little one who's joined you, sir.
No, he ran out the room.
Got
it. He's definitely looking at me like I'm his personal geek squad right now.
Fair enough. And it sounds like you are.
Yes. Definitely we'll get them together. But the great thing that I will say, and for the ones listening, is, it's one thing where you went to school and you have degrees behind your name, but it's another thing when it's a God-given attribute about a person where they can pull those things out of you like no other. So I pray the ones that are listening, they do take heed. Like, this is not something that he does for a 9 to 5, but it's passion driven, and it's just a part of him. Like, you could just have a normal conversation. Like we talked about it a few episodes ago. We was talking about movies, which is something that in a consultation he asked me. But based on your answer, you really get to understand the depths of a person with something just simplistic. And you would think, oh, we're just talking about movies, trying to figure out something to watch on Netflix this weekend. But nah, like what you choose and what you say, this is my favorite movie, this is my go-to movie. It says a lot about you as a person. So please tap in. Please tap in. It's another level of consulting when you tap in with Aaron Plush. I promise you.
Well, I appreciate that, sir. Yet again, it's always great when I don't have to pay people to make these comments. So thank you, sir, for those comments. So let's dive in even a bit further. We've had so many topics this year with this podcast. We've been able to define that authentic realness is really about directness. It's about truth. It's about our folks, the authentic realness experts, who are constantly those people who are saying what the rest of us are thinking. Certainly might need to clean it up a little bit, maybe soften it down, but we also know that those people are just going to tell it like it is. Mm-hmm. They're going to be point blank. They're going to be in your face. And certainly you get to a point where you can begin to appreciate that, because that's an attribute you normally see when a lot of people get older. As folks get older, I've identified that they get to that point where they just don't care anymore and they just say what they need to say. Mm-hmm. And being able to see people do that much earlier, still yet coming from a place of love, that they're not trying to hurt you, that they're not saying these direct things to you to make you feel bad about yourself. It's just that we need more truth in the world. We have to get away from this whole perception is reality. We have to get to the truth of a thing, that the thing is what it is, that words matter, that words are things. And pulling all of that in to a podcast where we talk about greatness, and we talk about the 8 services that I offer, and we talk about so many other topics of definitiveness and the significance of being grounded and the lowest common denominator. And I could go on and on and on of the amazing and wonderful topics that we've talked about. Front of mind for you, though, Theo, what really stands out as being something that you want to do a double click on, that you want to double down on, that we've had this discussion, you want to talk about it a little more?
It comes down to, like I just alluded to a few moments ago, is passion. Like, what drives you? Like, we live in a world where it's so fickle at times, but for anything to sustain, you have to have passion and purpose tied to it in some form or another. Money can go away, colleagues will go away, but the God-given passion and purpose inside of you, that stays there and evolves from that seed. But
love it.
You never hear that much. It's always chasing a bag. But one thing you taught me a long time ago, if you are chasing your purpose and following your purpose, mm-hmm. the bag will chase. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Not the opposite.
Yeah.
Because when you're sitting in there, those wee hours of you doing the work and you're really not passionate about it, you're going to slack off and you're going to not want to do this. And then when you was chasing the bag, that's when the bag can be taken away from you. But when you're passionate,
Yeah.
you're letting purpose guide you. You're going to do it, and you're going to do it to the best of your abilities. Meaning, when they see the caliber and the status of your work, like yourself, you can throw the craziest number out there because they know they're going to get what they need, and it's going to over exceed because you're
Sure.
passionate and purpose led. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah, no doubt about that. And I love that passion and purpose because that is at the core of Aaron R. Plush, the being,
Mm-hmm.
because that passion and purpose leads to exactly what we're talking about right now.
Yep.
You give your all when you're passionate and you have purpose. It no longer bothers you to have to work the long hours. But let's be very clear, Aaron Plush is not an advocate of you working like a crazy person either. that there is something called rest. There is something called harmony.
Boundaries.
Not an advocate. I'm not an advocate of work-life balance because it'll never be found. But you can definitely find some harmony in that. And you ultimately have to make sure you're taking care of you. You got to make sure you're sleeping. Where I'm able to find that ultimate boundary for me is no Sunday work at all. Don't care what's going on. The building's on fire. I don't need to know. I'm not a fire. Call those folks. They put the fire out. I'll find out Monday morning. But there's no need to call me because I'm not going to answer. Don't send me an email. Don't send me a text. Not responding. Not happening. Not on a Sunday. That's my God, family, me, friends, and others' time. Non-negotiable. What about you, Fabi?
I would say, well, reflecting back on previous episodes, right?
That is correct.
Honestly, I would say between last week's episode with Carl and our very first episode, this has really inspired me to level up. I know I've mentioned that word earlier, but that's my word, I feel like, going into 2023, and really tap into my skills and my passions. These podcasts has really inspired me to dig deep and find out what it is that I want to work on going into the next year, and that honestly anything is possible. I mean, even just hearing from some of the guests that we've had in the past and how they really were able to just learn new skills and really go at it for what they really wanted, it really inspired me. So I'm really looking forward to 2023, as I mentioned. And I think a lot of the guests and speakers that we've had earlier on have really inspired me to really put on that entrepreneurial hat and dive into 2023 and see where it takes me.
So let's get a little more specific because, of course, the episode with Carl, they have no idea what you're talking about because that episode will be broadcasted after this.
Oh,
but
okay.
just to the listeners, Carl, we're talking about Carl Van. He actually is a member of the world's greatest fraternity. And we all know what fraternity that is. I don't even have to state it anymore. We all already know that. That's established.
Amen.
And known. And in that, and a part of the world's greatest chapter as well. However, I won't go there with you, Theo. People get offended when we go to that Zeta Epsilon level. But in that, Carl has launched a app, Passive Ease. And the gist of it is it's an opportunity for anyone to record recipes. And that's literal food recipes that could be within families that people create, etc. And the whole essence of it is it really provides an opportunity where a video could be done or it could be written, whatever the case might be. It could be shared publicly or it could be private just for a family, whatever the case might be. But it just brings out so many emotions in how food is significant in most people's lives, not just in your family life, but in your life, period. And to be able to have an app that provides the platform for you to be able to record that from a time capsule perspective, that term that Theo likes to use, where it can be here even after you. And after family members have gone on, you still have that recording potentially available. So in that, I definitely want to give that shout out to Carl and all the amazing work that he's doing. Fabi, I want to call it out firsthand. And then what was the other episode?
The first one we did with Tan.
Okay, so
and
with
Mark.
Tan and Mark.
Yep.
Yes, and you were inspired by Tan has the nail salon, which she really had to work herself from a lot of obstacles, and now she's thriving, and the business is in an amazing and wonderful place. And then Mark is just on his journey where he has launched Tisley, and Tisley is the actual app that provides the opportunity for people to monetize their content. So he's progressing along, doing great work. Just spoke with him last week and excited about the work that all of these amazing entrepreneurs are doing, and all the other episodes, and know that we really do have a lot of great other panelists that are going to be joining us as well, that are going to be talking about their amazing journeys of businesses that are already established, that they're working to establish. And then both you, Fabi, and Theo, I know that there's some exciting things that you all have for 2023, including having you all to begin leading some of these episodes, which will allow me to close my mouth. Go figure, right? And you all lead and I chime in. So that's going to be very interesting to see how all that plays out. Anything else from a reflection perspective as you all think about 2022 holistically? You think about our journey as podcasters, which I have to give all of us credit that we have just jumped into this with both passion and purpose, and have done it in a meaningful way. And it shows. When I go back and listen back to these episodes, I'm like, ooh, who's that person? Like, wow, amazing, Theo. Great point. Wonderful, Fabi. Just great stuff. Anything else from you all?
I was at a Power of Conversation. That was one of the things that you lined out before we actually even started. You made it very clear that you just wanted to have a real, authentic conversation, not to be scripted, not to be,
Absolutely.
hey, these are the points that we have to hit before the hour.
Absolutely.
Let's just engage, and let's just
Correct.
have conversation, which I feel like was so dope. It's simply dope because it allows you to take the pressure off, and let's just engage and let's see where the conversation takes us.
Absolutely, brother. And I would agree with that. It's so important to be in a situation where the conversation is natural and it's flowing, and you all really are just listeners in on us collectively conversing, which provides an opportunity from a feedback perspective. That is something that I've gotten from people. It's like, wow, I just feel like I'm a part of a conversation even as a listener, whereas I'm having my thoughts and I'm wanting to chime in. And it's such a meaningful dialogue that people just love it.
Most definitely.
I did want to add two things that came to mind for me. Number one is not being afraid to learn new skills. I think that listening back on some of these episodes that we've done, you can really see the skills that folks were able to just learn on the spot, or through schooling, or through resources, or just tapping into other folks. That's something that's really inspired me, that constantly be growing. I feel like we have an opportunity sometimes to be a little bit stagnant and just go through the motions, go through the day to day. But it's like, if you really want to make something happen for yourself, if you really want to turn that project, into a business, you need to develop skills. And then the second thing for me is tap into your network. I would say, Aaron, I always come to you because you are the most well-connected person that I know. And you've been able to be super successful in these past months with this podcast just based off your network. And that's really inspired me to build my network. So going into 2023, what does my network look like? So when I want to, reach out to folks and tap into different skills, I have people to reach out to. So those are two things that have really stuck with me. And when I reflect back on our journey with the podcast.
I love that, Fabi. That tell you the thing about my network. It's all about just caring about people. Like, I don't encounter people and like, oh, what do you do? And how do you do it? And are you so great at it? It's more, how are you? Who are you? Let me get to know you. And in doing that, it's the authentic relationships that lead to that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to see where this goes in 2023.
But one thing I will tell people, when you do connect with Plush, whether it's a business connection or if you run into him in a personal setting, just know he's going to shoot it to you cut and dry. And I personally feel like he was put on this earth to bring the absolute best out of a person. Just taking a piece of what Fabi said, there's so much you can learn by just having these casual conversations that just push you to have to level up. There's no way you're going to communicate with Plush and it's not going to force you to be the best version of yourself. So I just definitely wanted to throw that out there, coming off what just Fabi just said. Like, bro, I really, really feel like that you bring the absolute best out of people that connect with you.
And
Absolutely.
I cannot take any credit in any of that. That's all God. And Theo, you'd alluded to this before. We never had the conversation that we didn't even prep for it. So that's how I know this is God right now. So my spiritual gift is a spiritual gift of exhortation.
Mm-hmm.
And that particular gift is being able to see things in people that they don't see themselves and helping them to be able to identify those things and then assist in the process of being that cheerleader, being that advocate, being that encourager, being that harsh person sometimes who's just like, yo, this is in you, and it's in you from a greatness place that's greater than you could ever imagine. And then having it to manifest. So you're spot on. I am aware of it. I shied away from it for quite some time, as I have in many of the callings that God has had in my life. And because I know this is his world, and I know this is his journey, it's so much easier just to go ahead and just completely surrender to God.
Almost definitely.
And do exactly what it is that he's called you to do, and do it in the exact way that he's telling you to do it. And life just becomes so much easier to live. So thank you, Theo, for providing the opportunity to share that in very certain terms, that more than anything, my life is completely driven, is passionate about, and going back to that whole Rick Warren purpose-driven life moment, it's really all about ministry for me. So if you think about everything that I do, it's ministry. And it's ministry in a vantage point where it's not always in the four walls of the church. And that's the part that some people miss, is that, yes, I'm an advocate of religion and being in the church house fully. I'm also an advocate of being spiritual. But I also know that we live in a world that does not connect with either of those sometimes. But when individuals don't connect with those things, they're still God's children, because there's only one creator. There's only one source. That one source is God. So if he created all of this and he's allowing all of this, who am I to say that, oh, well, no, if you're not in the church and you don't love the Lord, I can't work with you. That's not how it works. I meet you wherever God would have me to meet you. I present me right where I am, and we journey together. That's the thing that most people don't recognize from a mentee perspective, or a client perspective, or a friend perspective, or whatever you might be, a family member. People always think that I'm the one who appears to be always giving and feeding into their lives. And they're like, oh my God, Plush, how do I pay you back? And I'm like, look, don't worry about it. Because you don't understand how much it literally impacts my life as well. So when I'm mentoring somebody, I'm growing too. When I'm ministering to somebody, I'm learning too. So it's all about, it's a growth walk for all involved. And that's what this is for us in this podcast. Like, this podcast is so much growth happening with the three of us as the core. It's unreal. And then you just think about how it's impacted Laquan and Ham and all the others that are to come. Like, we are being ushered together.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it has no choice but to have a positive impact on every other part of your life.
That's it.
As well.
That's it.
So I will allow both of you to give closing thoughts.
I'll allow you to go first, Fabi.
Sure. So great session. My closing thoughts would be for us to really just be open and receptive going into the new year. I know one thing that I've been saying a lot is show me how good it can get. And I really, really, truly mean that. Like, life is beautiful. There's so many opportunities, and opportunities are really just waiting for us to grasp onto them and pay attention to what God is showing us. So my closing thoughts is really for people to just open their eyes, see what is around you, see what opportunities you can tap into, who you can network with, and really just make 2023 the best year yet.
For me, in closing, I would say know your why and understand your why. If you need help getting to your why, book ARP. But nah, in all sincerity, definitely book him if you really need help and you understand your why and you want to get to your purpose. You know, sometimes we need a person that'll guide us. We need someone that's gonna stand behind us and be like, "Hey, I got you. You got to get to it. You got to want it. You got to chase it, because that's what we put on earth to be. We have a purpose. We have a plan and purpose for everyone's life, and you just have to go get it. So understand your why and be sure of it. Don't second guess it, because when God put it in you, He put it in you for a purpose. So get to the core and understanding of, why am I here? Why am I doing this? Why do I want to do this? Why am I passionate about this? And apply it to what you're doing and watch how God move on it, because it comes down to your purpose.
Excellent for both of you. And I tell you, Theo, one of the things that came to mind as you were talking is just how God orchestrated it in a way that, yes, I met both of you for varying reasons and purposes, but this is one of them too.
Mm-hmm.
For us to be recording this podcast right now is one of the reasons why God brought us together. And I want you all to just think about how amazing and wonderful that is. And you think about just all of the light that both of you just shared. That's amazing. Though we are talking into the new year, this is the most wonderful time of the year for me.
Mm-hmm.
I love the Christmas season. So Merry Christmas from me to everyone, even though you won't hear this until 2023. I'm not a happy holidays guy. I'm a Merry Christmas guy. That goes back to the definitiveness of who Aaron Plush is. Nothing against what anyone else celebrates, why you celebrate it, how you celebrate it, but I celebrate Christmas. So therefore, I'm able to say Merry Christmas with certain terms. Had an amazing experience. And my family decided for the first time, this is my mom's family, we hadn't gotten together since the pandemic, which would have been 2019 as a full family. I had a birthday party early 2020. And those of you who know Aaron Plush and parties, ooh, I'll just leave it at that. It was an amazing time here in South Florida. It was probably ended up being 7 parts across 3 days, but amazing. So those family members, we were together, we had a great time. I digress. The purpose of what I'm talking about right now, we got together for Christmas the weekend before Christmas to allow people to be in their own homes for Christmas, particularly those who have younger children. It's just so much easier to have that full experience at home. But doing it a week earlier from an observation perspective really just allowed us to just have a moment where we were able to reflect on Christ, where we were able to reflect on good food, where we were able to fellowship together, and where we were really able to love on each other as a family. For someone who had a lot of death in my family in 21, it was great to be able to celebrate, reflect on the deaths in 22. I say all of that to say that I'm certain that many of you who are going to be listening to this are going through various things, because it was brought to my attention that for some folks, this is not the most wonderful time of the year. That for many folks, this time of the year is absolutely horrible, from loneliness to not having family to whatever the case might be. But I want to encourage those people to know that you too are loved. and that this can be a great time for you as well. So let's go to the throne. Heavenly Father God, we come before you just thanking you, God, for an amazing 2022. God, we've gone on a true roller coaster ride, and we know that it was one that you allowed everything that happened within it. God, you've gotten us through it. You're navigating us to those places that we need to go. And for that, we say thank you. God, we thank you for the ability to know love, for the ability to know you, for the ability to know family, for the ability to know business. God, we just thank you for it all. We thank you for your foresight, your all-knowing being, and just your understanding of each and every one of your children. God, right now, I just ask that you touch Theo and Fabi and cover and protect their families, that as they continue to reflect on 2022 and all the amazing and wonderful things that 2023 has for them and their families, that you would just direct their paths, God, that you would remove obstacles that they don't even know about, and that you would position them, God, for health, for strength, for energy, for know-how, and for all of the desires of their hearts, God, that are spoken and unspoken. God, I ask that you just continue to touch the listeners, that you would continue to allow us to develop and grow, that you would touch my clients, that you would have 2023 to be a tremendous year for Aaron R. Plush, the consultant, and that you would allow me to always be a beacon and light of you, and to constantly, God, decrease me, because we all know that I can be a lot, and allow you, God, to be at the forefront of all aspects of my life. So, God, we love you. We adore you. We magnify you. We trust you. And we're looking forward, God, to an amazing 2023. These and all other blessings I ask in the glorious and magnificent name of your Son, Jesus, we pray. Amen. And to the listeners, we're going to end in a way where we remind you that the most important part of this Authentic Realness podcast,
Realness.
ARP, is each and every one of you. And in our traditional customized way of ending, until next time, let's all make it spectacular together.
Realness.